Live better and longer with the Fitzness Show, hosted by fitness expert, author, and TV personality Fitz Koehler. She'll tell you why diets are dumb, supplements are snake oil, and the truth about how you can earn a lean, hard, pain-free, and athletic body. Now for our favorite bossy blonde, Fitz Koehler.
Well, hi team. I'm Fitz Koehler, your outrageously bossy fitness pro from fitzness.com, and welcome to the Fitzness Show. Today's episode is a doozy. I'm so excited to share this story with you, but I'm also really excited to hear this story because I only have a little taste of what we're about to get into, and I know our guest just a little bit. I'm really excited to learn more about him. Before we do that, if you haven't done so already, click subscribe wherever you're listening to the Fitzness Show. That means you get notifications whenever I pop on and make happy noise. And I do so with great regularity. So click subscribe and then you'll get to hear all the blah, blah, blah that comes out of my big noisy mouth. And then if you haven't done so yet, dingalings, order it. You supercharge the exact formula for fitness, weight loss, and longevity. It is out right now. Of course, it makes a great holiday gift, but you know what? The new year is upon us and everybody's focused on fitness and health. And I have solutions not only for this year, but for all the years moving forward. I promise if you give me a chance, I will make every year of your life better and better and better. You will one day look back and say, damn, thank goodness I got supercharged, right? Okie dokie. So on to my guest. So I met this man. I was announcing Oil Man Triathlon in Houston area, Texas, sometime in October or November. I think it was November. Anyways, I took the day before the try to loiter at the pool. I was relaxing like a lady about town does when she's staying at the Margaritaville Resort. And so I'm just chillaxing and some athletes are coming to and fro near me. And a couple walks by and I don't know why we started chatting, but we did. And the man was missing a leg, and he had one of those super cool running blades, which I am obsessed with. I love the running blades. I call them the boing boing legs. I'm sure he might rather have his own leg, but I love the boing boing legs, and I see so many cool designs. And anyways, I'm fascinated by them, and I absolutely love the fact that they get people up and active, right? You don't have to just sit in a chair because you lost your limb. You could get up and play, and boy, did this man exude the full throttle version of living fully with this leg. So listen, he is, as he knows, the first amputee ever to perform the duties of a firefighter in full, like full duty firefighter as an amputee. And he's like full blown athlete. He's not like full blown athlete. He is full blown freaking athlete. This is a man who, with only one leg and one blade, has conquered 3 full Ironman triathlons and then a whole bunch of lesser distance races, but outrageously awesome. His wife was a badass too. And I said, could you please come on my show? Actually, he walked by and I said, are you competing? And he said, yeah. And he said, can I ask? And so he gave me the lowdown on his leg, just a little tidbit. And I thought, I got to have him. And so that's all I really know. I really don't know too much more, but it's been about a month and I am chomping at the bit to hear all the things. So welcome to the Fitzness Show, Earl Barnes.
Hello. Thank you for having me. This is very exciting. It was great to meet you at Oil Man, and I'm looking forward to this. This will be fun.
Oh my gosh, we're going to have the best time. And you and your wife are so great. And do you, I mean, as you walk around through life, do you wear the blade all the time or is that just for sports?
Yeah, it's just for sports. I could wear it, but it's a couple inches longer just to kind of absorb the compression.
Okay.
But actually, I have worn it around just because that socket, for whatever reason, is a good fit. You know, it's just you put it on and it's like, oh, it's just like a glove. I don't know what my guy did differently, but it's a good fit. So I could, but nah, it's not. It's not really designed for that.
And what does your daily leg look like?
So it's just kind of a regular. Matter of fact, I got a brand new one, and actually, I just kicked it off. I'm on a taller chair, so it kind of hangs down. So I just took it off. So this is this is the most simple leg I've ever had in my life. So it's just got the socket, right? That I kind of, and it's dripping water. I took a snorkeling tour today.
Of
I
course
had,
you did.
yeah, I had 9 snorkelers today. Uh, the post and then the foot. That's all there is. And then inside, this is what's kind of different for me, is the compression or the pump. So this is it's just like a toy that you would have in a stuffed animal. You squeeze it and it sucks the air out, and that's how I stay on. And it just fits inside. There's no other moving parts than that. It's absolutely very cool. It's so simple and we love it. And plus it's lighter. The others have been like 9 pounds. This is like 6 and it's fantastic. So
Okay. The great majority of my listeners actually listen versus watch, although some people will watch. But is it a rubber sleeve, the black part?
okay. So this up here is a carbon fiber socket, and this is molded perfectly to the stump. There's no other way, residual limb, I
Right.
guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's custom molded socket, and then it's just a rubber squishy toy. For lack of a better word, that's all it is. It's got a one-way valve on it. It's a squishy toy that every time I step, it squishes and it sucks air out. And then I have an outer sleeve that goes over the top that provides that suction, and it's soaking wet, so it's off
Right.
drying now. And then then it just goes down to the foot at the bottom is all carbon fiber and aluminum and super tough. And then it's got this cosmetic foot. But what I really liked about this too is he gave me a split toe, so I can actually wear flip flops.
Flip-flops.
And yeah, on top of that, and so I'm actually really kind of digging this foot so far. But yeah, I put the flip flop on. I put like a little tiny bungee around the back of my heel, so it stays on this foot.
Okay.
So yeah,
Very
super
practical.
simple. And I love the simplicity of it. We've kind of fought with for a lot of years, for the very exotic pumps. At one point, I had an electronic one, but being a firefighter, and I've been a scuba diver, for just as long, I was really hard on them. You put the SCBA air pack on with all your firefighting turnout gear. That's a lot of weight, and then you go up and down ladders, or you're carrying patients, up and down. They just got abused, and so it took us, 28 years, and finally
Right.
realized, the simpler the better. And I'm a huge fan of it. It's durable. I can use it as a hammer if I want to.
Wowie. Wowie. Okay. So we leapt forward because
Yes.
that's what we do, but let's go back. So you were born with 2 legs,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden you only had 1 full leg. So tell us what happened.
Yeah, so it was the day after my 25th birthday. I was wearing a brand new jeans jacket, I was wearing brand new shorts and a brand new T-shirt, and I was riding my motorcycle into town for I was just taking a class, a night class, and I got T-boned. I was cruising along and somebody run a stop sign and just plowed into my right leg. It's just one of those things, just all of a sudden, just you're flying through the air. I distinctly remember seeing blue sky and then blue sky again. And you just kind of landed with a heap, just an oof. And truthfully, the damage to my lower leg didn't hurt at all. It was my stomach that was hurting, and I could see that my femur was broken. It was kind of at an angle a little bit. And yeah, but luckily it happened right in front of a few cops.
Wow.
And so they virtually watched it happen, and I knew several of them, luckily. So, being on the fire department, we cross over. We all know each other, and boy, they were right there, provided great care right off the bat. And then, yeah, then as time goes by, I have the amputation. Initially, it was very long. It was
What,
back in the mid
pause,
'90s.
pause.
Oh
Wait,
yeah,
wait, wait, pause, pause. So you leave the accident, you leave the site with your leg.
mostly,
And
yeah. Yeah, it kind of been crushed and degloved, so it was just kind of a mess, and
okay.
so yeah, but yeah, then but I remember it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. I kind of wake up in ICU, and the fog starts to lift, and that's when the nurse I had initially. I remember that guy plain as day came in, and he was super soft spoken. He was like, "Hey, so here's what happened. I lost my leg right at the ankle initially, so really down low, simply because back then they thought the more of your leg you can keep with you, the better off you are. When in reality, you have to have a little bit of a balance. You have to have enough leg missing so you can get a good prosthesis underneath you versus, just keeping more of you because that's the thing to do. And so back then we just kept as long as we could and it worked out. I was able to get fitted with a prosthesis and
Okay, I still got questions.
okay, no
Okay,
worries.
so were you even conscious when they decided to remove your foot, or was that just an expert medical decision that had to be
Yeah.
done?
Sure, that was surgery. That was a
Okay.
surgical decision. Yeah, I once I got some pain medicines on board, I was just a fog, and, I got a helicopter ride from the scene, and so we
Okay.
flew so I get a helicopter ride, which is pretty cool. I'm like, "Yeah, I've always wanted to ride in a helicopter," and I don't even remember it.
Not
Uh,
by
yeah, and so my wife will tell you, she kinda remembers hearing me when they called her from the ER, she says, "I could hear you laughing in the background." She says, "So I thought you were okay." And I was like,
wow.
Can't imagine laughing, but, maybe you get enough juice in you, maybe those things happen. But I don't remember any of that. It was just you wake up in the ICU and everything was just a foggy dream that people have to tell you what happened just so you can, process all that. So yeah.
So when the nurse told you that they amputated your foot, what was your initial thoughts on that?
Well, just absolute disbelief. That wasn't even a realm of possibility that to even process. What does that mean? What do you mean it's gone?
Yeah.
Is it broken bad and I've got pins and plates and screws, or is it like gone? And truthfully, back then, I couldn't even tell you the last time I ever even saw an amputee. You know, I I kind of had a vague idea of what prosthetic devices were because I was a paramedic at the time. And so we're somewhat familiar, but just in my town, in my environment, I never ever saw an amputee. And so I couldn't even process with that until it was later that morning when I'd fully woken up and we were able to peel back the covers, and just stare. And I remember just
Wow.
staring at it in just utter disbelief. And I don't remember really breaking down about it until maybe a day later after, everything had kind of calmed down and like my brain was like, okay, this is the new normal now. And yeah, it was a rough road for sure.
It's I mean, I can't even imagine. So there you are, and then did your doctor, give you any hope for athletics and functionality, or was he like, "Dude, you're gonna be stuck in a chair forever"?
Yeah, no, it was pure functionality. That's all it was. That's all we talked about. I had kind of almost a parade of people through my room, medical professionals to talk about, hey, the prosthetic devices they have there now are great. Your legs are fantastic. You'll be able to be up and move again. And that's all it was. And what really started driving it home that things were going to be different was when a guy come in, he goes, "Hey, I'm here from finance." He says, "I'm not here for a bill. I'm here to show you the paperwork to fill out. There's a great scholarships for you to go back to school, learn a new trade, and start college all over again." And I was like,
Well,
"Well, no, I have a career. You guys have just told me for, a good couple of 3 days, prostheses are fantastic. What's that about? Can they not get me back to being a firefighter, being a paramedic?" And of course, the poor kid, what does he know? He was like,
right.
I said, "Look, I was a music major for 4 years in college before I realized I can't be this anymore, and so it was at that moment I was like, well, I need to go back to work. And so some of the big fire chiefs would come by, including the big chief, and he was a fantastic individual. And he's an old school Marine, and he was like, "If you want to come back, you come back. Come back. Let's see what you can do." And I was like, "Let's go. Let's do this." And so, unfortunately, I was off initially for about 14 months. I was on crutches. Back then, I was just fighting infection. I had a bone infection after other infection. And man, as soon as I got fitted for the prosthesis, I knew fairly quickly that I could do it. And so got the prosthesis fitting and it was a long, ugly looking thing, but we strapped it on and I had to do the physical agility test. It's kind of the standard firefighting test. And
Okay.
man, we got through it and everybody was everybody was super supportive. That's the good thing about that. I don't remember hardly anybody ever saying, "No, what are you doing here? Come on, man, we can't be doing this." Everybody was like, "Let's go. Let's see what you can do." So
O Okay, so we're backing up again. So you get your first prosthesis, you said it's long. Are you still, like, amputated right above the ankle? I'm guessing you have had multiple surgeries since then. This is what
Oh
I'm
yeah,
reading.
yeah. So on my original leg, my socket went off from just below my knee. I mean, and then that socket came all the way down to my ankle, and that was
Okay.
all me. And then I had a window on the side of my prosthesis that I would Velcro that allows me to get out of it. So I was literally strapped on with that initial prosthesis. So one of the problems that we discovered though is with that long residual limb, I had such poor circulation that my stump would swell and it would shrink. And so I have to put on socks throughout the day just to maintain this certain level of comfort. And so I had not quite a little purse, if you will,
Mhm.
just to make that happen. And then as a firefighter, there's days you're up moving the whole day. And boy, it's everything I do just to get a few minutes off to let it just relax for a little bit and then get going again. And so I did that, kind of figured that out over several years and just kept making it work. And then I would go home in the morning on my days off and my focus would be purely recovery, skincare, making sure any blisters or hot spots develop, make sure I try to get those down as much as I could. And yeah, just made it work. And gosh, and then 12 years. Oh,
Wait,
sorry,
wait,
go ahead.
wait.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm like, "Wait, wait." So, that's one of the things. I mean, I have a good amount of amputees come through my finish lines, and besides the fact that it's just such an awesome example of that no excuses mentality to see people do this stuff, in my mind, I always think, does the stump hurt?" I mean, the chafing, I can only imagine at some point has to be pretty epically miserable, but maybe there's advances, so that's not the case.
Yeah, for sure. And so there's kind of a variety of creams, for lack of a better word, Vaseline. You know,
Okay.
you if you've got hot spots within your socket, it's like the Princess and the Pea, right? Where they're having that pea in the mattress, however many down. Well,
Mhm.
I feel all those little things, and so, but occasionally your stump kind of changes. It changes shape, both swells and shrinks, and maybe you get bony parts that are rubbing where they didn't used to. If the Vaseline doesn't take care of it, if it's just a one-off deal, maybe you have it for a couple of days, that's no problem. But if it persists, boy, then we have to get into the prosthetic, into your prosthetist, have them grind down a little bit, make sure that goes away. Because if it doesn't, then it becomes a boil, right? And so it's not. It's like a very deep pimple, but all your weight is being pushed
Oy.
boiled. So those are just things we kind of have to be aware of. A good many amputees are diabetics, and so
Yeah.
skincare is critical for them, just as it is for those of us who are traumatic amputations or cancer amputations. So it's constant mindfulness for that.
Okay, so do you think the ha have prosthetics advanced dramatically over the years? Are there new prosthetics that are super comfy and you don't have to worry about chafing, or is it still not there yet?
We're getting there. We're getting one of the best things, truthfully, that has happened for amputees was that global war on terror in the mid to late '90s, because all these military guys back in the early onset of the IEDs, perfectly healthy, and they're like getting fitted for this prostheses, and we're like the same way. They're like, "Well, I need to go back to be with my guys. I am perfectly healthy. I'm just missing this limb. So here's what I need from you." And they'd tell the VA, and the VA would tell the prosthetics company, saying, "Hey, you guys need to develop a prosthesis that does this, this, and this. It needs to handle this impact. It needs to be made out of like this material." And it really drove a lot of the research and development, because suddenly you have a glut of people who said, "No, this isn't good enough. I'm going back." And not just going back to work, but they're going back to war. And so that trickled down to the rest of us in the civilian world. And it's been fantastic. So now that there was a big kind of renaissance in the sense that amputees were like, this isn't a death sentence. This is just another chapter in my life.
Well, you know what's so interesting is back, I don't know, for about I would say between the ages of 20 and 28, 29, I was a competitive kickboxer. And so full contact, that was my world, that was my sport. And I just loved it so much. And I forget who I came across, but there was a moment where I was thinking about amputation. And just in my mind, I was like, well, if I lost my leg, I just have them make me a really good foot so I could still fight. I mean, the fact that we can think that way, like, oh, they'll just make me a leg. They'll make me a foot so I can kick somebody in the head with my other foot. It's pretty lucky times, right?
And most prosthetists love that stuff because it becomes a puzzle. How can I make this work for you? And so that really and now that we have that ability, it just simply comes down to communication. I again to this day I'll run into amputees who are in a wheelchair. Like, hey man, where's your leg? Why are you sitting here? Well, my leg doesn't fit. Well, why doesn't it fit? Well, they don't prosthetist, doesn't listen to me. Find another one, because that communication between the two people is really what is whether really drives whether your prosthesis fits or doesn't fit. And then if it does fit, does it do what you need it to do? And so just having that, I don't know, you having that encouragement to go, no, this isn't good enough. I need to do more than just walk. So
Right.
so kickboxing was a prime example. I need to balance on this prosthesis while I kick with my other leg.
Yep.
Or I need to be able to kick with this leg and not have it flopping around. I need it tight. So or whatever. Yeah.
Okay, so you show back up at the fire department. You got your little fire jacket on, your cool outfit. Are you still wearing the fire boot on your prosthetic leg?
Yeah, so what we decided, so since my ankle's fixed, right? I can't point it. They do kind of make a release that now that if you push a button, your toe will suddenly point. Mine's fixed in space, so we decided to go with a structural firefighting boot that was leather. And there was only one or two companies back in the day that would make those. And so I would wear my structural firefighting boots the whole day. And they were 10 inches tall, and we put a zipper up the front, so I could get into them, get out of them. And then my bunker pants is what we decided to alter. So I took a regular pair of bunker pants, took them to a leather shop because he had the big industrial sewing machines. We decided to put a zipper up the side of the leg all the way up to my hip. And so my bunker pants would then just lay on the floor by the rig, and then a fire would come in. I would come and I'd literally just step into my pants and I'd zip them down the sides. And we kind of looked into it. We had some people evaluate, is this allowed? Because the NFPA, which is the governing body for the fire service, we said, look, it's no different than a bunker coat with a zipper and a flap.
Right.
It's the same thing. And so, yeah, so we did that, and man, that carried me through my whole career. So
Okay. So your fellow fighter fighters, did they give you great nicknames? If so, what were they?
no, they kind of figured with a name like Earl, I didn't need a big nickname. It just like that kind of speaks for like, look, I'm sorry your parents named you that. This is all we got. But no, you get called Stumpy, or Hop Along was another famous one. So yeah,
What
those were about all that came out of that.
what a classic environment. It's so funny how and you could tell me whether you like it or not, but people are so touchy and so hypersensitive about everything. I think it's got to be relieving to maybe be in an environment with a bunch of guys who are just calling you Stumpy.
Yep. Oh, it's absolutely it's the best environment. Truthfully, it's a big fraternity house, and it's male, female. It doesn't matter there because you spend so much time together. That 24-hour shift, you spend all that time together. Plus, you're out running calls that really kind of bring it together. If you don't develop that camaraderie, then it makes for a very long career, very long day. And so, yeah, there was nothing. There was times where they would steal my leg. I would get done by doing PT at the end of the day, and one of my guys famously would run in and snag it. Because I would have just slipped it off just to kind of let it air out and scratch. Just to take it off, and so that was just always a running gag. You keep that up, Barnes. I'm gonna steal your leg. And yeah, it was good. It was all in good fun.
Earl and I met and I said, "Do you mind me asking?" You were very sweet. You said, "No, thank you for asking." So, do you think other amputees would be so open for those conversations?
Yeah, it's kind of 50-50, really,
Okay.
whether they wanna talk about it and what they don't. And it's too bad, and I think because some people just don't have the ability to process things like they used to. We kinda talk about the greatest generation in World War II, things would happen to them, like, "Well, that's the way life is," they pick up and move on.
Right.
And I think there's some people that are very open, and they finally maybe they've been an amputee long enough that they see this as a blessing for them in whatever fashion, or they see that as, "No, I'm a victim now, and I have no control over my life," and it's unfortunate, so I was for whatever reason, maybe they haven't had good therapists to talk to. Maybe they don't have good friends. Maybe they don't have good family that they can talk to.
Right.
And so, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And so really it is about 50-50. I'm usually pretty open about going up and talking to somebody who has an amputation, especially if they're missing a prosthesis. I always want to know, where is it? Why aren't you wearing
Right.
it? Come on, man, this is great. It's good stuff out there. Why aren't you wearing it? That sort of thing. So be sensitive, be gentle, treat everybody with gentleness and respect. But yeah, I think the way you asked me out at the pool was fantastic. It was very gentle and yeah, very inviting for a good answer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, I don't ever pull punches with my audience. I'm a little bit brazen with my strong opinions, but
Yeah.
if the victim mentality sucks. It's no good for anybody ever at any time. And it's okay to be sad and it's okay to feel stressed and it's okay to be upset. But the why me thing
Yeah.
just never gets anybody anywhere. I mean, when I was sitting around bald and gray with cancer and sick, I never once had a why me because it would have been completely unproductive. So, a gee whiz, this sucks. And now I got to control what I can when I can is really the only option for moving forward at your and being as successful as possible. Right? Am I wrong about that?
Oh, no, yeah, I think you're spot on. They think a good chunk of the time, people would get I always tell them, post amputation or whatever traumatic event, have that time of mourning. Be sad, be angry at the world, go through those 5 stages of grief, but don't get hung up on one particular stage over another. Allow that to go through until you finally take that deep breath and go, "Oh, all right. Where do we go from here?" You know,
Such
and
what
and then move on. I agree. I have a very anti-victim mentality, and that's why I really went out of my way, kind of over my life, to really not let this be my identity. I don't want to be known as Earl the amputee. I want to be
yeah.
known as Earl the triathlete, the firefighter, the whatever, And again, that was just something that I was like, no, I don't want to have that type of attention. And in my view, I felt like it was negative attention. Oh, you're
Yeah.
only here because you're an amputee. And I'm like, no, I'm here because I want to be good at my job, that sort of thing.
Yeah, not a token firefighter, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing, right? So token firefighters don't make it very far because
Right.
as soon as you're needed to go into that burning building or carry somebody down the stairs on their worst day, you need to perform or get out. And that's kind of the nice thing about the fire and EMS both is if you can't do it, they kind of weed themselves out pretty well.
And we will be right back. Ho, ho, holy cow. The holidays are upon us and it's time to go shopping. That's right. If you are looking for a meaningful and affordable gift to give to all your friends and family, stop by fitzness.com. Right now, we're running a special on fitzness.com. It's order 4 books, get 1 free. And you can do that in like 7, 8, 10 sets of that, depending on how many friends and family members you have. Yeah, spend 20 something bucks on a book and upgrade your friends' lives forever. Help them look, feel, and perform better forever. Sounds like a generous gift to me. So go shopping at fitzness.com. No matter how many books you order, they all will come signed. They all will come with their special little Fitzy gift, and they will all be packaged with love. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Festivus for the rest of us. We're back. So you go back to firefighting and you've got this prosthetic leg. Was there any moments where you thought, holy mackerel, this is making my life so much more difficult? Or was there any touch and go moments where you thought, oh, thank goodness the leg hung in there and I was able to do the thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That happened fairly often, because the first few years especially, right, is how far can I push this leg, and not be injure myself doing it.
Right.
Gosh, even one time I had a foot break off completely on a call. Yeah, we were on a medical call. The thing just snapped. I'd knelt down to just chat with somebody that was had fallen, and as soon as I knelt down, I heard this click, and I was like, "Oh, that's not normal." And I was like, "Huh." And I stood up, and my boot stayed in place, and my leg came with it. I'm like, "Oh, no." I just went white as a ghost. I started sweating. I'm like, "What?" And I'm looking at my crew. I was, found my at that point, my lieutenant was like, "Hey, I think my foot just broke." He's of course, the dog, look,
Yeah.
and I was
Huh?
like, and so sure enough, I picked it up and I'm looking at my boot staying on the ground. I've lifted my knee all the way up, and he's like, "Oh, what do you have to do?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "Tell you what, you guys get the patient loaded and I'll hop back out to the ambulance and then have the battalion chief meet me there so I can go figure out what I need to do next." Because I didn't have a backup leg. There's no backup. It's one and done. You have to have
Right.
that season. So I made it out to the ambulance, and I ended up grabbing another paramedic off the engine to take him in. And battalion chief shows up. He says, "What?" I said, I held up my boot. And I said, "My foot's inside of here." I said, of course, he just had that look on his. He says, "What do you need to do? Where do we go from here?" And I said, "Tell you what, I can call my prosthetist, see if I can run over there." He was about 30 miles away. I said, "See if I can run over there, get it fixed real quick." And he goes, "Cool, do that." And so my wife came and picked me up at the station, and we drove. And yeah, just for whatever reason, a bolt had broken.
Okay.
And but it was that first moment of my prosthetist going, "Oh, you need something beefier than just this
Okay.
everyday walking around leg." And so what was cool about that is the next legs after that, they kind of prostheses come in different categories. And so they'll take your weight, say you're 180 pounds, you're at this category of activity, you get this particular leg. So we were able to bump up about two categories just to absorb that extra impact and abuse. And that's worked well for us this this whole time.
Absolutely brilliant. Now, I have to ask the patient you were helping when your foot fell off, did they notice? Were they like, "Oh my god, firefighter's foot fell off?"
No, no, they didn't notice,
Oh,
luckily. It was but I'm sure I've had lots of patients over the years that absolutely would have picked that out and been all over, but that was years ago. That was just one of those things that you're just, "Oh, I've never had this problem before," so
that's inc
but
s
yeah.
s so, you are arguably the first firefighter to do the job as an amputee. Were there others to follow you that reached out and said, "Hey, I lost my limb and I'd like to continue being a firefighter. What do you recommend?"
Oh yeah, so we've had a few of them over the years. One of the first ones was my good friend Anthony Torres he's in the Columbus, Ohio area, and he had a very similar story. He was hit by a motorcycle, ended up losing his leg, and their union actually reached out. They did some Google searches, and I popped up. Their union reached out, and so we got in contact. So I went to go visit him, and he and I have been good friends for years because we both motorcycle riders. We were both athletes. He was doing Arnold Schwarzenegger competitions, and was just kind of a very active style. And he ended up getting the same type of surgery later. So 12 years after my surgery, I had another surgery to revise everything. So he ended up having that same style. And we've kind of kept in touch over the years. And then
Wow.
ever so often somebody will pop up and say, "Hey, I got a firefighter just got hit by a car, lost her leg." And I we'll chat with them on the phone, and some we keep in touch over a little bit, and others it's kind of a one phone call. And I was like, "Hey, either way, if we keep in touch or not," I was like, "Please keep doing it, man. Keep keep after it, because it doesn't have to define, it doesn't have to be the end of your career."
Absolutely. Now, how limiting was your amputation to your career? Like, what do you rate it?
So was probably at limited to a certain degree. I couldn't run very well initially. That just because it was so long, I was really limited to keeping everything kind of in a fast walk pace. Um,
Okay.
Even advancing hose lines where you're kind of crawling, I have to be very careful about crawling because I don't get that power output. But that was something I just need to figure out, to get through. So it limited to a certain degree. I wasn't 100% by any stretch, but it was a good 85 to 90%,
That's
for
pretty
sure.
good.
So
That's
yeah.
pretty good. I would guess that a firefighter who is severely overweight would be with all functioning limbs would be far more limited than a fit guy like you
Yeah.
with a prosthetic.
Yeah, there's, cardiovascular disease is kind of still the number one killer of firefighters. We've had, guys with bad backs, bad shoulders,
Yeah.
bad knees, that still kind of lingers. So yeah, we're kind of all in the same boat. Everybody's got a little bit of their ailments. You just have to decide, is that going to limit you or is it not? Some people would barely hang on. That's kind of another sidebar story altogether about how police, fire, and EMS take care of their bodies
Absolutely.
to prepare for work the next day.
Yeah, I actually have presented many times to police and fire departments and, just the labor involved. I mean, I would say so many firefighters are doing a lot more of carrying
Mm.
people who have fallen in awkward positions out of apartments and houses and tight spaces and up and down stairwells. And that is so much more risky on their body than the actual getting into a building engulfed with
Yes.
flames. That doesn't happen as much. So
Yeah.
fitness in your career certainly is essential and healthy back care. My goodness.
Yeah, that functional fitness is really key in all three agencies, police, fire, and EMS. But
Yeah.
that's kind of one of the good things that kind of came about with the kind of CrossFit revolution, if you will.
Yeah.
We really started realizing, why are we not practicing overhead shoulder presses? That in almost an awkward position. The
Yeah.
kettlebells have been huge because it had direct correlation versus maybe just doing straight up straight up bicep curls.
Right. With perfect alignment because
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure you get all the opportunity to do things perfectly when you're in a crisis situation.
And so, yeah, and people aren't getting smaller. That's
Right.
that's the harsh reality. And so you really have to be careful about how you position yourself. And then the times you can't get in that perfect position, can you get enough hands in to help you? And unfortunately, with as busy as a agencies are now, yeah, you may not get an extra engine company that brings 4 other sets of hands. It may just be you and your partner, so you really have to be creative, but your body has to be prepared to perform, at
That's
that
right.
level.
Okay, so are your legs, your prosthetic legs, are they especially flame retardant? Is there something that goes into your legs so they don't catch fire?
No, I'd say if they catch fire, then a whole lot of other bad things are happening.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and
All right.
it's funny, that was an argument we had to make early on regarding my bunker pants. Like, "Oh, if that zipper melts, then it's gonna go straight to your leg." I'm like, "If that zipper melts, then everything else is failing and
Right.
I shouldn't be there." So,
That's right.
yeah, so yeah, that's the bunker pants, and actually I burned a hole through my pants one time, and it didn't make it to the prosthesis. So
Okay.
I was like,
All
"Oh, this
right.
is good," so.
So you weren't the proverbial friend with a wooden leg named Sam, right?
Right, yeah, yeah,
What's the name of his other leg?
yeah.
That's terrible. Okay, so firefighter doing a very athletic, demanding job, a dangerous job, crushing it there. How do you transition into sports in such an epic way? How'd you get started and what inspired you to go so far?
Sure. So the first 12 years after the accident, for the most part, I was not really. I was able to swim, and I was able to ride my bike pretty well. I was not able to run. Just I was
Okay.
most days I would just get off work and I'd just be happy to let it recover, and then I'd go hop on the bike and you do a ride or something and whatnot. But the problem was that the stump that I had then was so long and jagged. I was starting to get sores more and more and more. And matter of fact, it was that I had gotten sent to Nashville for some training. And that Saturday evening, we were at the Gaylord Hotel right across the street from the Grand Ole Opry. And so a lot of people were like, hey, let's go over, for that Saturday night broadcast. And I was like, you know what? I grew up with that. Let's go see, when in Rome, that sort of thing. I couldn't even walk across the parking lot. I had developed a sore that was so big. It
Honey.
was finally made it to the Grand Ole Opry, and by the time I got there, I was sweating. I was in such pain that I was like, "This is awful." So I made it through the training, and as soon as I got home Sunday night, I called my prosthetist and said, "I got to see you first thing Monday morning." And so she was like, "Yeah, come on over." So I was there early, 7:30, that type of thing. And I finally said, "Hey," I said the training I was at was we were sitting all the way. It wasn't a hands-on type training. It was a sit at the desk sort of thing. I said, I couldn't even walk across a parking lot without this. I said, at some point, what if we just chop some more off? Can we start fresh?
Wow.
Give me a lot better, better stump to deal with. And, he kind of was like, yeah. He goes, I kind of been waiting for you to ask that. He goes, it's definitely time. And so I said, where do we even go for that? He goes, what I think would be perfect for you is if we can find somebody that does the ERTL procedure. It's ERTL. So very similar like the ERTL toys and whatnot. Well, and I was like, I don't care. But I said, I have to be able to go back to work. This can't just be oops, I screwed up and suddenly I have to find a new line of work. I said, I have to return to this level of functionality. And of course, my prosthetist was like, yeah, he goes, I think this will be great for you. So we ended up finding the ERTL procedure's grandson, Dr. William ERTL. And
Okay.
so the kind of the sidebar of that, it was that back in the Civil War, a surgeon named Dr. ERTL found that he was chopping off soldiers' limbs, sewing them together. He says, I was throwing away so many bones. He says, what if we build a bridge between the tibia and the fibula? He says, and that way, the bones will kind of grow together and give a nice solid base. And so he started doing that and noticed that the guys he was doing it to were recovering very nicely and being able to function a little bit better than the people who just had their legs chopped off, sewn up, and said, carried on their merry way.
Lord.
Over time, it got better. They took care of the nerves a little bit better and everything. So we found him. He operates out of Oklahoma City. Went down to visit him, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll get you taken care of, no problem." And I'm like, "Whoa! I need some more reassurance than yes, no problem." He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You'll be 100%, I promise." So we had this surgery on a Thursday. I was heading home on Sunday, and just in the that short time period, I was off narcotics completely within about 3 weeks. Within a month and a half or 2 months, I wasn't even taking ibuprofen or Tylenol or anything.
Wow.
The pain was just nothing. And I returned to work 12 weeks to the day post-surgery. So they had 7 inches off. They did the bone bridge between the tibia and the fibula, and it has been absolutely amazing. I've got good circulation. There's no changes. Any sore that I get is just because maybe I just picked up a little bit of a staph infection, and then it goes away within a day. It is absolutely the best cosmetic surgery I have ever had, but it's made me infinitely more functional. I was able to run. So I had that surgery in October. I did my first triathlon in May, just for comparison. And so what that really became was something that now that I had this prosthesis, I had good compression, it didn't hurt to walk. I asked my physical therapist, who I'm a huge fan of. Any surgery we get, man, I tell people, go get physical therapy. Those
Yeah,
people
100%.
go. And the guy I had was absolutely outstanding. I said, can I run with this? When can I run with this? I want to go. I'm not a runner. I grew up with asthma. I was a swimmer because they didn't want me out breathing the dry air. But I always had this thing in the back of my head going, go run. Kids don't need to be told running sucks. They stop running because an adult somewhere along the line says, "Oh, running sucks. It's bad for your knees, hips," and then they stop running. And it's the most natural thing anybody can do is go run. And so now that I had this, I just had that itch. It was the back of my head. I was like, I just want to try it, And so he was like, He's like, yeah, tell you what. He says, after a physical therapy session, he was like, tell you what, go home and rest, take a nap, whatever. But he says, this evening, go out for just 20 minutes and just do an easy jog. And that's how it started.
And
Just,
this is on your blade. This is your first running blade.
oh, this is the everyday leg. The
Whoa. Without
yes,
the hingy ankle? Like your ankle doesn't even hinge and you're out there running on that thing?
fixed in space, my everyday leg. The leg that I wear to work versus anything else. Yeah, so I didn't get the running until later, and so I was like, I want to do this triathlon with this because the more I thought about it, this is back when like Oscar Pistorius was out about for the Olympics, the double
Yes.
bladed runner.
Murdered his girlfriend? Was that who he murdered? Yeah.
Gosh, the door, just crazy. But anyway, we talked a lot about how fast they were. And I was like, you know what? Is that the only reason they can run is because they have the blades? Or could they run without it? And it just kind of in the course of just talking with my PT and other people, I was like, why can't we run with this? It'll be harder to be sure.
Yeah.
And of course, my PT was like, yeah, let's do it. Who cares? Try it. He says, go
Love
home,
it.
run for 20 minutes. And I got done. And I was a sweaty mess in that 20 minutes, right? But you got done and like, okay, I can do this. And so then it became kind of a badge of honor. I was like, I want to prove that you don't need fancy equipment. You don't need a fancy bike. You don't need fancy running shoes. You don't need all this. I just want to be able to show that I did this. And so my first couple of seasons of triathlon, I did with that everyday leg on it. And for me, I wanted to be able to prove that I could do that. So.
And then how did you transition to the blade?
So I'd hooked up with Challenge Athletes Foundation. They have been a fantastic organization. They had a program for public safety, fire, EMS, and military. And so just getting chatting with them, they're like, hey, it's grant season. Think about putting in for a running leg. And of course, by then I was like, yeah, I'd like to try it. Let's see what happens. And so, yes, the grant came through and Operation Rebound. Sorry, that was the name of the sub program that I was on. But yeah, got a grant. They sent the running leg to my prosthetist. We made a socket for it, and gosh, putting it on, you run instantly. I mean,
Wow.
put it on, you're like, okay. And of course, now I was like, I'm never going to run in that old dumb thing ever again. I'm using this blade all the time because it's one of the kind of the misnomers is they say it provides crazy amount of rebound, so you're springing forward. That's not the case at all. You have to preload it to allow it to get any return. And it's not even really a spring. It's just allows you to have a more normal gait while you're running. And man, it was like running on pillow tops. And so
cool.
and really that just encouraged me more. And so by then I had done triathlon for a couple of seasons, maybe I only did one that first year, and then I did 2 or 3 the next, just the local short ones. And so by then I was like, I really want to do this. I really like being there. I really like competing. And I always tell people, look, when you cross the finish line, this is the same for marathons, 5Ks, it doesn't matter. When you cross that finish line, that gauntlet of people that you run by, they're all cheering for you. It's one of the few times in life where you got all these strangers who want you to succeed. And that few seconds is just epic. It almost makes you choke up even talking about it, here. So I'm really glad I got through this because I tell people that sometimes that's all the encouragement we need is have these complete strangers cheer for you to be successful. And that hopefully that encouragement will carry on for your training the next day as you pick up and start your next race. So I just live for that moment. And then that's how triathlon kind of really just blew up bigger and bigger for me from there.
And so you've done 3 full Ironman distances.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I finally decided that that's not the distance for me.
Oh, well,
I'm not really built like that, but it takes over your life, and it definitely is a dedication to that. But the crossing of the finish line is worth all the pain of the previous 10.5 hours or however long. So.
And there's a lot of pain involved. Tell our listeners exactly how far Ironman distances are.
Right. So the full Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim, and that's
In
always
open
a
water, folks.
open water, right? And so I grew up a swimmer who's used to staring at a black lion on a pool doing flip turns.
Hmm.
Open water is a long way with no rest, and I had to build up to that for sure. And then that follows with a 112-mile bike, and it's through open country, and you just keep going. You just put your head down and just keep going. You have to take all your food with you, and during the race, they'll have water stops. But for training rides, you end up packing snacks in your
Yeah.
pockets and everywhere. And then once you get off, then you get to run a marathon at 26.2 miles. And yeah, it's a sport that you really have to respect your training, because by the end, by come race day, you will be should be over prepared
Right.
for that. So it really kind of takes over your life to a certain degree, simply because of that distance and that you have to cover.
Okay, so yes to all that, no matter who's doing Ironman or a full or even a half Ironman or even a small, you should be wildly prepared and it takes a lot of effort and discipline. However, you, unlike many of the athletes, you have some unique obstacles. So, how does your leg play into the swim portion of a try?
Sure. So the swim I discovered early on that I have to leave it on shore. I just swim without it. and and it's actually nice. I don't even really notice that it's gone. So even swimming in the pool, I'll do a flip turn, push off with one leg. It's just a non-issue anymore. But comes triathlon, my wife's been my best Sherpa ever.
Yeah.
She's there at the start line, so I peel off everything. She takes it and holds it. I go do the swim, and then she either meets me at water's edge with it ready to be put back on. And usually I swim as far as I can, then I'm crawling. Some races, if you have enough people, I can hop up on their shoulders,
Okay.
so this kind of the old fashioned buddy carry. I just hop along and
so
so
so note that when you did, I think, did you start first at Oil Man?
uh-huh.
Did you have an early start? Yeah,
Yep.
so I was doing my thing and I had already met you and I told everybody about you, right? You were one of my favorites, but
Yeah.
then someone was like, "Oh, they've got Earl's leg." There was like this message going around about your leg, and
Yeah.
someone's got the leg. So I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool.
And
Someone's got his
that's
leg."
right, that's tricky because the transition was separate from the start. Most of the time, you come to
Yeah,
a one spot, you do your swim, it's a loop, and you exit the same place you started.
yeah.
Not there. It was around the corner. It was a good walk. And so, yeah, so that's why I was like, I need this leg to be at the exit all the way over there to get it.
Yeah. And you gotta
I did
hope that somebody has it there for you.
Yeah. So I did Alcatraz, Escape Alcatraz triathlon up in San
Cool.
Francisco. And that was a whole nother animal because I had to have two Sherpas, because they put you on a boat and take you out to Alcatraz Island. Everybody jumps in the water and swims to the beach. So the problem is that boat stays out there for a long time. And so it's not going to
Oh,
be at swim exit. So I had to pull one of my old prostheses down from storage. They just happened to,
okay.
and I had that on with the boat. Then my daughter met me at water's exit with the newer leg to get
Right,
me to
right, the
transition.
racing leg.
Yeah, and then go from there. So occasionally logistics is pretty tricky, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay, and then how does the leg and the blade fit into your bike pedal?
Yeah, so then what I've decided to do is I'll run my everyday leg on the bike. And
Okay,
so kinda cut it down in the back so I can actually pedal effectively, but I end up putting just a regular bike shoe on, and I
okay.
try and keep that just as plain as possible. We toyed with the idea years ago about maybe drilling a cleat to making a fancy bike-only leg, but I was like, "Yeah, that's too much work." I wanna be able to hop on my bike whenever I want, and so I just put a shoe on it and go from there, and then when I get off, the leg just comes off, and then I put on the blade to do the run.
Okay. That's so
Mhm.
funny, you're leaving legs behind. You're like, "Huh,
Oh, yeah, they're just
just went."
all over the place. It's always fun to go through to the airport,
Oh,
check it,
yeah?
like, "What what is this?" I'm like, "Well,
Mhm.
those are prosthetic limbs, they're okay." But they still, like to take them out and look at them, so which is
You know what?
I don't
To
mind.
be a TSA person,
Oh, you imagine the
right?
stuff they see?
Oh my gosh, they've got to see it all. So, it's funny as you were starting to talk about your bike locking in there, and if folks don't know, racing bikes, lock your shoes into the pedals. There's a little cage, which scares the bejesus out of me. I've done a couple of tries, and I will not use the cages because I'm so afraid of getting trapped if I go to fall. I mean, the falling off a bike thing, nobody wants to do that. Have you fallen off a bike with your leg in the cage. And what
Oh,
was that like?
have I ever? I've done it twice. Mm, I've so sometimes in the biking portion, because I'm held on by suction, just the pistoning motion makes me lose suction occasionally, and I don't notice that outer sleeve is supposed to stay up has slid down. And I just
Whoa.
noticed this the first time this happened to me. It was at Topeka Tin Man, my local race. I I go to get off and I swing my prosthesis side off to get off, and my leg just goes. And of course, by the time I see it flying behind me, I'm already falling because there's nothing there, and so I just kinda roll, I hold my bike on top of me. Luckily, there was only a couple of dozen people who saw that. Well, so
Huh.
then the biggest time was in Des Moines, Iowa. They used to have the Hy-Vee national championships, and we would go for every year, and it happened again, only this time there were hundreds of people ever. I felt like the whole all of Des Moines was right there. Same thing happened, and I was trying to hurry because there were several, physically challenged athletes who were all racing together. So I was really trying to boogie. I I threw my leg over so fast, my leg went about, 15, 20 yards away before it landed. And then, of course, the same thing. I go to step down, there's nothing there. Yeah, but it's like almost like a cartoon with the feet are just going underneath them. I fell down, grabbed my bike, and of course you could feel this gap.
Right.
People around me, and I'm like, "Oh, no," and, of course, the people at the, helping people off the bike, he's like, What do you need? What do you need?" I said, I need whatever just landed over there." I said, "Can you please bring it to me?" Of course, he's like, "Absolutely." He's carrying it like a Fabergé egg, I'm like, "Please be in one, please," it's not gonna break, it's carbon fiber, it's beefy. But still that thought goes through your head like, "Oh, what did I just break a $29,000 prosthesis? I hope not."
Uh, well,
And then
it's
what do you do? I told the guy, I was like, "I hope you believe me when I say this has never happened to me, but it
that's
has."
right. The only ones, right? Well,
Yeah.
the thought of being like, if you saw somebody's leg fly off and them take a tumble, you would also be mortified too. I
Oh my gosh,
actually
yes.
would love to see that in some sort of like Adam Sandler movie. Like, wouldn't
I'm
that just be the greatest?
Gosh, yes. I I know it sent somebody to therapy for that. I mean, that's straight out of a horror movie.
That's
The only
right.
thing missing was the blood, so
The
but yeah,
stories.
point, as mortified as I was that it happened in front of all those people, I remember getting on the run and just finally once it processed, just chuckling to myself. One
Yeah.
what in the world, man? What what can you do? You just
Well,
mm, just laugh.
you you are
Laugh it
such a you are such a delightful guy. I mean, I work with so many delightful people, especially in the running community and try. What a blessing. But then there's all these people I'm constantly begging, please exercise, please step outside of your comfort zone for life, for quality of life. Oh, I can't. And to have someone like you who are just like, I can and I will.
yeah.
And then you just have such a wonderful attitude about it. It's really
What do you say?
it feels good.
Yeah, it's developed over years. Yeah, for sure. There's absolutely been up days and down days,
Yeah.
to what they go. But matter of fact, I'll even tell you, I was at the 70.3 World Championships in St. George, Utah, 2000 what 2020? I forget. Anyway, I had my first panic attack during the swim. And that was kind of towards the end of my career. I was already thinking about retirement, so just a lot of things mentally going on. And I had a panic attack during the swim, and I thought for sure I was gonna drown, but there was that little thing in the back of my head, "Just keep going. Just keep going." Grab onto that kayak, rest, and it took me forever. It took me 40, 50 minutes, I think, to get out of the water, and usually I'm a 30, 35-minute person, And I s I remember getting out of the water, and the lady that was, helping me got me on my bike, and I sprinted the 10 miles down the road on the bike because I felt like I was running away from something, and just that kind of there's an automaticity that just took over. Whatever caused that, I'd never had these before. I didn't know what was going on, but I was afraid of something back there, but there was always that thing in the back of my head, "Just keep going. Just
Yeah.
keep pedaling forward. Just keep pedaling forward." It's simple as it can be, and it wasn't until I finally got on the bike and got settled in and thought about what in the world just happened to me, and it would have been very easy, just pull over and just get a ride back to the start line, just take that DNF. But there was always that something going, I don't know what's happening, but you know what you're doing here. You know how to ride a bike, you know how to go run. Just go do that. And there's some calming effect
Mhm.
throughout the rest of the race that we finished and did great. But I spent hours afterwards going, what was that? You know, and
Right. Right.
but if I didn't have that background of being comfortable, being uncomfortable, it was
Mhm.
very easy to quit, and I'm glad I didn't, so.
Well, and you now have honed that voice in your head to talk you up instead of put you down, and I think that's really the most essential thing no matter what you're dealing with is the voice in your head, which is really the only one that matters because there's nobody else that can impact you in that way, is you saying, "No, I can do this. Just keep going," and
Mhm.
I do that as well. A lot of people are like, "You're fearless." I'm like, "I am not." But thankfully,
Right.
that noisy little thing inside my head is very encouraging and committed, and
Yeah.
she keeps me moving forward. Thank
Mhm.
goodness.
And I tell people all the time right after my accident, I said there was a couple of phrases that just stuck in my head. "Arise and go forth," and "No one is coming to help you. You
Yeah.
have to do this on your own." And I had those 2 things that I really kinda held on to, and it just kept me from I was living with my mom at the time, and it was like, "No, don't call her for help. You figure it out. You go figure out how to drive again. You figure out how badly do you need to get up and get that snack from the couch? Are you gonna get your crutches or are you gonna hop? If you hop, what happens if you roll your ankle?" And so arise and go forth and figure it out, you know? And of
Brilliant.
course, like, the second one was no one's coming to help you. And so I had that mindset. So I've always kinda had that in the back of my head going, "Come on, don't let's not be a victim. Let's do this on our own." And there's tremendous it's empowering, but there's some days that you just don't have it, and I
Right.
said not every day is hardcore. Sometimes you have to reach out and go, "I need help."
Yeah. Okay, so Earl, I gotta ask, can our listeners, can they use your mantras? Do you mind sharing? Because those are pretty good ones.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm a huge fan. I'm a big fan, especially now. We have so many resources to help people. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times they've become crutches. That if you operate each day with, okay, today I'm starting this day, no one is coming to help me. I have to figure this out. I can do this. Whether you believe it or not, kind of just start that day going, all right, let's go. Let's just see if we can do this. We talk about, I read David Goggins' book, it
Okay.
can't kill me, can't hurt me. And man, he kind of went to that extreme. And I was like, you know what? We almost need this in this day and age where we've got multiple therapists, we've got multiple pills we take for our mental health, and these
Mm.
things. At some point, you'll create that secondary personality, that superhero in your mind.
Yes.
I am the superhero, you know?
Mhm.
So, I always tell people too that, I was a big fan of the X-Men because
Yes.
a lot of those superheroes had things happen to them, and then they had to decide, "I have this new power now. Is I'm gonna use this for evil, or am I gonna use this for good?" And I think that's what happened to me, This accident happened for me. It didn't happen to me. It happened for me, and I have to figure out how to best use that.
Okay, so my superhero I identify with is Juggernaut. The one that he just smashes through bricks. I got a lot of
Shoot, yeah.
obstacles in my life, and I just don't take no for an answer. And so it's the helmet and the brick wall, and let's effing go, right? So who's your superhero?
Oh, man. So I've always been a Spider-Man guy. You
Okay,
know, that's just somebody I kinda grew up with, and so I thought that, but again, he had a traumatic event, that spider bit him, and
uh,
now he's gotta deal with this bite now,
yeah,
and so you can either fight it or you can kind of embrace it and see where it can take you.
wow,
Yeah, I like Juggernaut though, good call.
yeah, he's not very girly. He's not very pretty. I probably should have gone with a Wonder Woman or something, but
Yeah.
nope.
Man.
Juggernaut.
Jug
Juggernaut's the one, especially in business and just life in general, right? There's always people trying to put up or blocks, and I don't accept them. I say no. Okay.
Yeah,
So s- thank you for your time and your wisdom and your story. I knew it was going to be great when I met you next to that pool. I was like, I got to ask him if he'll come on the show. So thank you for saying yes.
sure, it was my pleasure. This is a lot of fun. You're very easy to talk to, and I love and again, I love your podcast because you've had some amazing people on here, so I'm honored
Thank
to be
you.
just to be a part of that.
Of course, of course. Okay, so now at the end of the show, we talk about a couple of things. We talk about a communication tip, and you seem to be a master communicator, mister. What is your communication tip for our listeners?
So my biggest communication tip is just say the quiet part out loud. Just stop trying to word everything perfectly. Just blurt things out as a starting point. What happened to you?
Yeah.
Why are you this way? Start there. Just because if nothing more, you find somebody like me who appreciates the bluntness and like you appreciate the bluntness, or it offends them so much that people just it just opens a door. So that's what I think. Just say the quiet part out loud and embrace that communication doesn't always have to be touchy-feely. It can be confrontational. And that's really where the true communication begins, is when we break down those barriers of, did I use the right $10 word? Did I use the right phraseology? Come on, man. At the end of the day, we're we're just humans, sharing the same space.
Well, what's funny is I grew up like you, very scrappy, and we all called each other names, and none of it meant anything. And my kids nickel and dime me on my language. I'm like, come on, my intentions are good. Isn't that what matters? That I'm actually a nice person who treats people with respect. And they're like, you can't say that. I'm like, shut up, you're in my house. I can say whatever the hell I want, right?
So kind of treat everybody with gentleness, respect, and until you kind of find that edge. And
That's
yeah,
right. That's
yeah,
right.
so
That's right.
poke the bear a little bit, So a
Fair.
little trash talk is good for bonding.
That's right. Somebody calls me a name, I feel like we're friends. I feel like we've connected. Okay,
Yeah.
Earl, song of the show, meaning what song would you like our listeners to download and listen to? And what exercise should they do while they're listening to your song? So who's the artist? What's the song? What exercise should they do?
So one of the songs that really, really gets me going is "Walk the Moon, Shut Up and Dance with Me."
I
There's
love that.
something about, you can just scream that at the top of your lungs, and you can get after it. I'm a big AC/DC Thunderstruck song person. That those tones hit, I'm like, oh, we're doing this. I'm a huge fan of those two songs, and for me, it's just the simple running. As much as I love swimming, I love biking, but I love, more importantly, that just get out and walk and go for that run. Go be out of breath for a block or two.
That's right.
And then when you get done this, you're gonna be tired, sore, sweaty, but then that euphoria kicks in. And you're like, I may be wheezing, I may be, sweating in places I haven't sweat before, but my body lives for this. So this is my thoughts.
Those are great, great choices. If folks would like to follow you, are you on social media? Where can people follow Earl Barnes?
Sure. So I'm mainly on Instagram, just because I like the pictures and stuff. So I actually am the Gravy Lake Pirate, but Earl Barnes is easy to search. But yeah, Gravy Lake Pirate. I used to tell, it kind of developed with my prosthesis years ago. They're like, what do you keep inside all of that leg? That's surely not all your leg. And I'm like, no, that's just it's just full of gravy, just in case I need. And it was just an offhand dumb comment that for some reason has stuck around. So gravy legs for the runners, that's when you kind of, lose control of your bowels during a marathon.
Oh, is that right? Oh, I've never heard that. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah. If you had
Ooh.
gravy legs. And so there's pictures out there of a lot of people that marathons where you just, you
Let it
don't
rip.
trust the heart during a run and it runs down the back of their leg. So there's kind of a double meaning. It's never happened to me, but
Thank
yeah,
goodness.
so Gravy Leg Pirate was just a name I just kind of picked up over the years. But if you search Earl Barnes on Instagram, it's not overly exciting, but I post on there. Like right now, I'm in St. Thomas as a dive instructor and taking people on snorkeling tours and scuba diving tours. And so I've been posting a lot about that lately. So.
Yeah. Hashtag limitless. Earl Barnes. Mm-hmm.
I don't like things.
So two things. This past year, I had a woman, Melissa, come on my show, and she shared a story. It's called The Poop-tastrophe, where she did have gravy legs at the Boston Marathon, and it's a great listen. That one's a great lesson. And then Gravy Leg Pirate, you need to come run Gasparilla. Have you ever run Gasparilla?
I don't know what that is.
Okay, it's the end of February. It's in Tampa, Florida. There's a 5K and 8K, a 15K, and a half marathon. Many people do, some people do just one race, and many people do all four or any combination of two or three. And it's a pirate party, and half the runners are in pirate gear. I'm the announcer. I'm in full pirate regalia. It is so much fun, and there is so much beer at the finish line. So maybe consider coming to do Gasparilla.
Love it. Shoot, yeah. Oh, that'd be very cool. Yeah, we'll have to keep that in mind. Absolutely. Oh,
I'll
cool.
send that to you. And a couple of years ago, God, I wish I could remember his name, but one of our athletes broke the world record for half marathon as a double amputee. And then he broke the full marathon record with me somewhere else. Anyways, great athletes. You can do Gasparilla. Maybe I'll
that'd be very cool. Yeah, we'll keep that in mind. Yeah.
You should come. Okay, Earl Barnes. Thank you again for coming on my show. The final task is to look into the camera and with gusto, tell the audience to get to work.
Guys, get to work.
Get to work. I love you. Bye.
Are you looking for the perfect gift for a loved one battling cancer? The Cancer Comeback Series by Fitz Koehler offers hope, inspiration, and practical guidance. With Your Healthy Cancer Comeback, My Noisy Cancer Comeback, and The Healthy Cancer Comeback Journal. These books are a lifeline for all patients and survivors. Right now, you can order autographed copies at a special discount. Show your support and help a loved one go from sick to strong. Visit fitzness.com today. That's FITZNESS.com. Fitzness.com.